My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast that knows that to find the ball, you have to think like the ball, and that it means eating the grass at Carrara Stadium. This week of football we learned that you can tag Dacos, but it might not be worth it. The favourites all won, and the AFL has decided to take another stance against racism, which hopefully good this time. We're not sure if Rossball is good, and Carlton, Essendon and Adelaide continue to return mixed results. I'm Jack Turner, and I am joined, as always, by three-time All-Australian Pokemon Snap champion and state #1 Bull Ants fan,
That's me.
Alistair Hampton.
This
is the back pocket.
There's a wild difference between when I do the intro and you do the intro. I come in and I make it up 2 seconds before I start.
Yeah. I added in Bull Ants champion so that you had something to enjoy on the second take of the intro this week.
Second take, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, we never get that wrong. It's a good thing this is not a live show.
God,
Could you
it would
imagine?
be horrible. How you doing?
Oh, I'm here.
Have you ever asked that before?
I've no idea. Sometimes. I feel like it's usually when you've been violently unwell that I ask how you're doing.
Oh, that happens once in a blue moon.
I'm happy to jump straight into the votes this week. Who was your one?
That's seemingly how we do it. This #1 vote could have gone to like 8 different players.
There were a few
I
good games this week.
So I picked one that we haven't voted for before because I thought that would be nice. So I'm giving one vote to Liam Stocker.
All right.
Who swapped in for Sinclair, essentially. Sinclair was tagged, so he was getting his regular disposals, but he wasn't getting his outside ball from halfback. And Liam Stocker really filled that role. He had 16 marks, which I don't think he's ever done before. 5 intercepts. Could have picked Wangan Miller, could have picked Wilkie, could have picked Ben Mackay from that game, but it was truly atrocious. And I didn't want to give anyone a vote, but I had to give someone, so...
I totally understand that as well. My one vote was to someone who I feel like you might have higher because I feel like everyone in Australia but me did, is Jack Payne.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he had an amazing game. I feel like I can brush through it now and you'll probably touch on it later. But
Nah.
He only had 13 touches, but he had 12 kicks at 100%.
Yep.
8 rebounds, 8 spoils, 8 intercepts. I love the symmetry of the 8s there. 9 marks, 5 of them were intercepts, 3 contested, 3 out of 3 contested defensive one-on-ones. He had 8 coaches' votes.
I think the most important part is he's the only person to keep Kerno to less than 2 goals for 26 games.
Incredible. He was brilliant.
Which is the main part. And it was really a tandem effort with Andrews.
I think it's harsh to say one vote, but I'll get into why as we go on.
All right, well, I'm giving my 2 then. Wow, we're going really quick. This is going to be the quickest podcast ever. I'm giving 2 to Will Powell, who
he was in my special mentions this
featured
week.
last week. Continued his great form. Gold Coast really should have won that game, and they should be bitterly disappointed that they didn't. 25 disposals, 11 marks, 11 intercepts. Really good off halfback. Just good to see him playing well after the injury. We talked about that last week. Don't really need to cover it again.
Really continued it on. And kind of after what I said last week about how obviously they beat Geelong and Richmond, and now they've pushed Melbourne really close. So I think maybe, as I said, might have been harsher on Gold Coast at the start than I needed to be, but we'll see how they go against the teams they should beat.
That's how the season rolls, though, right?
It is, for sure. My 2 votes was to a teammate of Will Powell, Sam Collins, who I heard on the radio commentary late in that game. They said that he might have no skin left on his fist after that game. His defensive efforts were incredible. He had pretty much the ultimate Collins game. He had 10 spoils and 3 other 1%ers. Won 4 out of 4 contested defensive one-on-ones, 8 defensive half-pressure acts and 5 intercepts. And basically the tools in Melbourne's forward line really struggled. Even Bailey Fritsch, I think, was playing on Ballard for most of the game until he got conked. You couldn't get a goal for the first time in about 40 games.
Yep.
So well done, Gold Coast backline.
He did have an opportunity to, but obviously that was a rare one too. So that's 2 forwards who've been in really good form, who've been well held completely. So good on the defenders. Is that your 2? Was that 2?
That was my 2. Yeah.
All right, I'll give him my 3. This one was weird because I didn't think that he was the best defender on the ground, but the stats and coaches' votes said he was. So I'm giving my 3 votes to Asava Radaglia.
Yep.
I kind of feel
that's my 4. So it's only one away.
I kind of feel like, Guthrie played up the ground a bit more. I feel like Colo is way too undersung, and I gave him votes the other week.
Colo was very good.
For being good, but 8 marks, 100% efficiency, 8 intercepts.
That was the one for me.
Yeah, that doesn't
100%
happen.
for Radicalier,
That doesn't
especially.
happen. 7 1%ers. I don't know how many spoils, so I'm sure you'll tell me.
Had 7 all 7 of those are spoils.
Okay.
I think the one for me that really cemented the 10 coaches' votes was talking of players who kick goals every week. He kept Fogarty to 0 score. Just didn't score.
And that was what swung me in the end. I was like, Fogarty's dangerous. He's an amazing kick for goal, and he was taking his shots from too far out to score.
But you are right that Colo did a great job on Phil Thorpe, undersized. Obviously, I think that was the matchup just out of that Fogarty would have been way too strong for anyone but Radicalier. And I thought, Guthrie, despite the fact that Tex got a couple, also did a really, really good job. That was the thing that I was most worried about going into that game, how they were going to match up on those 3.
Yep.
And they managed it pretty perfectly.
It worked out in the end, which surprised me because I really thought at least one of them would get off the chain.
And enough for Stewart to have a reasonable game without having to play a lockdown role. My 3 was to someone you mentioned a moment ago, was Callum Wilkie.
Yep.
Who he got 10 coaches' votes in that game, which surprised me because Larky still kicked 3 goals of North Melbourne's 4. But he did have a lot of the football. He, I think he ended up with 28 disposals, 12 of those were intercepts, which was wild, plus 8 spoils and 4 score involvements and 2 score launches. So
Wilkie being Wilkie.
Wilkie's
You've
good.
come to expect it now, so it's less impressive, right?
Yeah, he was really good. But yeah, maybe it was just a bit of a, I'm so used to it now that I didn't realise what a good game it was while I was watching it. But he was my 3.
It was a really tough game to watch. We swapped over to the other game
Painful.
so many times.
Laughable, really. That first half in perfect weather under the roof, 1 goal.
Dreadful.
Well done, Ross Lyon football's back.
I don't like Rossball. My 4, probably not going to even get a mention on yours, Luke Ryan.
Yep.
I was watching that game and I thought that with Young playing further up the ground, he was actually finally able to be defensive and distribute. There wasn't a 50-50. There was no chipping to each other. They actually played well. And is that down to them playing the Hawks? Maybe. 27 disposals, 9 marks, 96% efficiency, 6 intercepts, bunch of rebound 50s. When Luke Ryan's playing really well, it's good to watch. He is not only an accumulator, but a stopper, which is impressive. You don't get a lot of that. So I was happy to give him 4. Although, looking at these notes now, despite there being some good defensive games this week, it's an uninspiring 5 for me. I'm not impressed by this 5.
All right, we'll see where it goes. My 4 was at the South Radicaliers. Who was your 5?
My 5 is Jack Payne.
All right, yeah, okay. So
Simply due to the fact that he was able to stop one of the most informed forwards, one of the 2 most informed.
I did love his game, and I had to give him a vote. No, it's always a good game when a second player from the same game gets a vote.
Yeah.
Because my 5 was Harris Andrews.
Yeah. I am impressed by the fact that Harris Andrews has learned how to play well on Mackay when he used to bath him a little bit. But yeah, I feel like Jack Payne was the better of the 2.
The coaches agreed with you, obviously, and so did general media. But when I was watching that game, even my dad sent me a message at one point, and he's like, Harris Andrews is a freak.
He's a really good general.
He was just everywhere. I felt like that any time they tried to go inside 50 or even breach the 50, Andrews was making a wall there, and he really stopped Mackay from being able to play his up and around the ground game, which has been a big distributor for Carlton so far this year. So that was a big part of why I gave him my 5. I know he only got the 3 coaches' votes and Payne got 8, but I just thought he was brilliant.
Coaches' votes aren't always right. They gave Radically a 10.
They did, but I wouldn't have given him 10, but he was, for me, I had him down vote straight away. So from early on in the weekend, I had 5 Andrews, 4 Radicalier, and I was like, it's going to be hard to get past them. Special mentions before we go.
Yeah,
I've got,
Zerk
you've already
Thatcher.
mentioned Guthrie and Mackay.
Yep.
My other special mention was Isaac Quainer. who I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
was really good.
Good choice. Zerk Thatcher was my other one.
He
been
was
great.
good. I think Adelaide and Essendon have had a similar patch of weeks recently where they've been playing good football just against better teams.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really kind of showing where they sit, which is nothing against them. They're in a development stage, but when they've come up against both of them against Geelong and Collingwood, they've just been that little bit not good enough. And then Essendon against Port, pretty similar. I thought their effort was good, but Port probably should have beaten them by 6 to 7 goals.
Maybe more.
Or more, yeah.
Yeah.
So before we went to air, we've talked about this between us sort of, but Van Rooyen's ban was upheld for one of the most obviously football acts I've ever seen get a
tried to spoil
2-week
the ball.
suspension. He missed the ball by maybe 2 inches. Like, it might have been clumsy and everything else of his execution and probably would have been a free kick
I
anyway, but he missed the ball by a fraction.
I think about Jeremy Cameron's one.
Yeah,
That's suspension worthy.
yes.
This is not.
Because that was, he realised he couldn't get to the ball and crashed into the player
Yeah.
in front of him. Very different scenario to genuinely trying to spoil the football,
Mm-hmm.
missing it, and hitting him with the arm he missed the football with. Like, it wasn't...
I can't believe that was upheld and
So we had-
Newman's was thrown out.
Yeah, we had Brad Close, which I got why it was upheld because of the way they've been judging it this year, but not two motions, didn't pin the arms, just resulted in someone's head hitting the floor, who was fine and was probably close to best on ground in the end, Jordan Dawson. And then Van Rooyen's, which was a genuine mistake, followed by one that was probably by the rules a week.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
And I understand how they ended up throwing out Newman's because Lachie Neale came
Yep.
on and basically said he hit me in the chest.
I thought it was an interesting one because Neil loves to throw his head back. But
He does.
look, but he swung an arm, clipped the chin.
Yep.
That's a week now.
It makes sense. And I sent you a message. I said that was the most 50-50 of them. The other two should have been thrown out.
Absolutely.
With a caveat on Close because I know why they're pushing those harder. Is it possible, and this is a radical suggestion, is it possible that the clubs could get together and put a vote of no confidence
in the AFL's tribunal?
in the tribunal?
You wonder, don't you?
There have been 14 or 15 that have gone to tribunal so far, and
That
we're only at
wouldn't have
round
been
8.
suspensions last year.
We're at round 8.
Some of them I get, others have been just dead ass baffling. Mm-hmm. I do wonder where we're headed. I hope it levels out because we've seen in years before where something has been a new suspension thing and it's gotten punished harder at the start. But we're 8 weeks in now, and
The difference is we've the ones that have been harsh tackles, like actual genuine harsh tackles, make sense to me.
Yes.
It's these smaller ones that just because the head hit the ground, you're gone.
free kick fine, but wild.
But you know the head's important, so it is what it is.
On that same game for Voss, subbing out Lewis Young hurt my soul. I
I don't know.
thought it was a strange decision, especially against a team with firepower and height up forward. Two very tall key forwards.
I thought Matthew Kennedy was pretty good when he came
so
on.
did I, but I thought he should have been on.
It was just a weird one because Lewis Young was also playing ruck, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Vossball's up in the air at the moment.
It's interesting. I think he needs a few more levels of plan.
I think you need someone to take him aside and say, "Hey, man, you can ask for help. It doesn't have to be your way or the highway."
So I mentioned it at the start. The AFL's brought in bans for vilification finally for life, which I think is good.
Goodbye, Fagan. Goodbye, Clarko.
That'll be interesting. There's been a lot of that brewing this week as well. There was reports on Fox Footy that a mediation was put forward and they denied it, and Chris Fagan has said it was never put forward. There's a bit of both ways going on there, so obviously just still bubbling under the surface, and it's kind of, I think, going to be a bit of a disruption this year for those clubs. But yeah, life bans I think is what it's always had to be. It's been baffling that it's been 2 or 3 years. If you go to the football to say racist crap to a footballer or even on social media, you're not going to the football. It's easy as that.
Yeah, even my older sister mentioned it when it was put through the other day that they were getting banned for life, and I say, good. We've been talking about it for ages that it should be that way.
I think
but
one of the first preseason weeks on the podcast this year we said it.
Why does that not apply to someone like Taylor Walker?
Yes, well, exactly. If you said that to a footballer now, you'd be banned for life. And
You should be.
He is still playing. Very strange. On that note, the booing of Buddy Franklin was so weird.
I don't understand that one.
Couldn't understand it at all.
I can't think of any connection between the two clubs.
Neither could I. It's just that Buddy's good and their fans are nuts. I loved... It's crazy that Collingwood seem to be leading the way now in all of this kind of stuff, and credit to them. I think I said a few weeks ago the only thing they've got left that I can dislike them for is Degoe, because I love the way they play football. I love the way the club culture seems to be run and they're handling themselves. But yeah, they came out this week and were really harsh against it and called out their fans, which was brilliant. But how strange to boo just someone because they're good. I can't comprehend it.
Is it because he's good, or is it a racist thing?
Well, that's why I said it now, because you do worry, right? And I think that's part of why the AFL was so eager to, on the back of that, pass the full vilification ban, just to really try and stamp it out. But the pantomime of booing may be an umpire, and I get why teams will boo a former player, even though I think that's silly.
My favourite thing is when they give the Bronx cheers to someone who's touched the ball for the first time in 4 quarters. But
just over... What was on the other day we were talking about that was just almost laughable? That's right. It was the St Kilda Port game. when Horn Francis had the ball like 26 times, they were still booing him. It's like, are you not tired of that? Yeah,
They've got no connection to him
He was best
either.
on ground. He beat you. Like, just shut up for a change.
I get booing an ex-player.
Yeah, an ex-player, I get it, even though I think it can be a bit silly.
There's a time and place for it, I think.
There is, for sure. But yeah, that was such a strange call. I've got a few who would wins this week.
From Instagram or?
A couple yes, a couple no.
Oh, okay.
So I had a few for you already. So my first one was we're talking about expansion teams, and I'm very thankful this won't have to happen again because Tasmania is already a football state. But who would win 22 Israel Folau's or 22 Carmichael Hunts?
Carmichael Hunts.
It's Carmichael Hunt, right?
Yeah.
I think that was an easy one.
By a country mile.
I think the whole idea
Of the two players, he's the one that only...
he looked like a footballer.
He tried.
Until he got injured and then just kind of vanished. He had an almost best on ground game when they beat Richmond that time.
He kicked the sealer. That's all that matters to me.
Second goal in that game too.
But the thing is, I think Israel Folau gave it up really quickly.
He did. He only got like 4 games in 2 seasons, or 1 season it might have been, and he quit. Played 1 VFL, 1 AFL.
And Carmichael Hunt
Whereas
tried.
Hunt's
and
body just couldn't take the speed of
the change, it was too much. Although I would love to see Tasmania do it again.
Oh, how would they do it? Tim Payne.
That's what I thought.
He's what, 38.
He's too old.
The other one was the Battle of the Kings, which was 22 Max Kings versus 22 Ben Kings.
Controversial. I'm saying Ben King.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know how either of them hold up defensively, though.
Yeah, me neither. But I think Ben is capable of doing more around the ground.
Yeah.
Than what we've seen. So I was leaning that way, and despite the fact that I think Max is a better footballer currently.
I'd love to do a comparison side by side of their stats, but
22 Byron Shammer versus 22 Shannon Burns.
Nil or draw?
I said I actually wrote notes for this one. I said ceiling, Shannon Burns, floor Byron Shammer. I think overall fitness allowing, Byron Shammer.
I was probably gonna say Burn myself, but I wouldn't want to watch it.
And Burns has got 2 flags, which probably leans him career-wise to be winning it. But well, the one thing you say that game is to be fast.
It would be. I've brought up the Max King, Ben King stats here.
Yeah.
It's a bit rough, but Max King seems to be ahead in pretty much everything.
Tough.
Except for uncontested marks.
All right. Well, who would wins that I didn't come up with?
It's very close, though. They're not too far off.
The first one we got sent, excuse the first one we got sent was 22 Chris Judds versus 22 Ablett Juniors.
It's 22 Ablett Juniors, I think.
I think prime Chris Judd.
Maybe.
I think career.
No
Ablett
shoulder
Jr.
injuries?
Yeah, I think at his peak, Chris Judd. But I think
it would be a really good watch.
Ablett at his peak was also something else. But
I think it would be a really good watch. I just think Ablett Jr. has much better forward craft.
Period, yeah, it's Ablett.
I mean, Chris Judd has kicked some great goals, don't get me wrong, but they're all streaming in from the middle. Ablett Jr. could kick them from anywhere.
Most ridiculous goals we've seen. Yeah.
From anywhere. So that's why I tip it that way.
That's fair. I think Judd might have him in the back line, though.
Might also have him in the middle. But that would be... That would actually be good to watch.
It'd be an absolutely entertaining game. The other right-in one was... And this I saw and I thought about a little bit, and it interested me more I thought about it. 22 Jeremy McGovern and 22 Mitch McGovern.
Okay. Oh, I think Mitch McGovern might win that one.
So I thought, off the bat you go, well, Jeremy McGovern's a better footballer, but you go, at one thing.
Yeah.
Over the ground, McGovern's got him for speed.
He's got him for speed. He's got him for goal kicking, obviously.
For field kicking as well, like on the run at least. I think...
I think he's got a better leap too, to be honest, so he'll take him in the ruck.
Yeah, I think it's Mitch, so...
Yeah.
It was a good question. I liked it.
That one was interesting.
Yeah, it had me... at first I was like, I just went straight away, I went, obviously Jeremy, and then I went, hang on, this is 22-22, not just one-on-one. So, yeah, I'm going Jeremy with that.
Do they ever play on each other, forward, back?
I don't think so.
That's a shame.
Someone wrote in my dick, so I thought that must mean who would win 22 Josh Bootsma or 22 John Patton.
Oh, Patton. He would... Every single contest, they'd have to make 22 subs that day. It would demolish him.
Yeah, but like maybe Patton would win the hit out, but Bootsman
would get the ball and he would be taken out. Well, he was hit by a bus. Mean Girl style, just straight through him.
So Patton wins the dick pic.
Yeah.
22s.
There's so many different players you could have in a dick pic 22.
Yeah, well, they were the first two I thought of. I feel like they were the most controversial. They were the only two that got sacked immediately post dick pic scandal. Patton's was a range of other things as well as a dick pic scandal, but included.
You've just offended the only two listeners of our podcast, Josh Bootsman.
Imagine if Bootsman does listen to this.
That would be sad.
And there was one question sent in, which was, should I take Fergus Green out of my fantasy team?
Yes.
Which is an overwhelming yes. That should have been done last week.
Yeah.
And definitely now.
Yeah. If you still
he might not even play next
you might
week.
have to double it up. If you've got Chandler and Green, you got to get rid of both of them.
Yeah, that is true.
We're not giving fantasy tips here because we're both terrible.
Jimby now too.
I went way early on Jimby and it worked
You got
perfectly.
it at pretty much the exact time you should have. And I'm envious of that. To be fair,
Hunt's still making money.
I don't think I lost anything on Jimby, so I got safe there. But it's becoming a squeeze at the moment, I think, for those picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was I think disappointing this week that we saw pretty much all the teams that went in started favourites won. Because I feel like I didn't learn as much as I thought I was going to. I did think that Adelaide were really good in their loss against Geelong, and I thought Sydney, until they ran out of puff, showed better signs against Collingwood than they have for a few
They looked a
weeks.
little bit better.
And I'm still not sure on the Bulldogs. They still look really wobbly. So
I think, God, it could go either way, that Carlton Bulldogs game.
yeah, I
Good
changed
luck to anyone who does tipping.
I've changed my tips 3 times this week on that game already. So
No chance.
I think I might just toss a coin come Thursday afternoon.
It's a really tough one because, one, Carlton have a really good record against the Bulldogs recently, but they're also playing like tripe.
Yeah, and the Bulldogs are playing for 1 or 2 quarters a game really good. Outside of that, not so much. Freo as well, they beat Hawthorn. Like, I saw Longwood say it was our first 4-quarter performance for the year. I was like, yeah, it should be too, right? Like, especially against Hawthorn with a couple of their best players rested for the trip. You should have beaten them.
It was also interesting to see all the articles saying, oh, Nat Fyfe's back. He kicked some very easy goals against a very easy side.
He also missed a shocker. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes against a better team. And the same could be said for obviously St Kilda. That was a miserable effort against a shocking team. So,
but we did say while we were watching it, this happens every year.
Yeah, we do, and we said that you, as a good team, you have to win those awful games.
Freo's got Sydney at the SCG, so if Fife goes over for that, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Sydney's starting to get some players back, which is looking good for them. Collingwood are just really good to watch. They just overran Sydney in every aspect of the idea. Sydney were in that game for most of it, and then at the end, Collingwood did what they did when they're behind, except they weren't, and they just flew away with the game, and basically Sydney just couldn't keep up with them. They're a really good team. I think they are. I think they just have to be the favourites at the moment.
It's upsetting.
Anyone who doesn't think they are is.
But it's
wild.
true.
I don't know when the Queen's birthday holiday is in Melbourne, but I'm looking forward to that game, whatever date it is on.
Do we still have the Queen's birthday day?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll have the game, I think, because you're not going to take it away from Collingwood and Melbourne, are you? Collingwood's not going to give that up.
When is that even meant to be?
I don't know. As I said, I don't know when the Queen's birthday holiday, because it's not the same holiday here.
Yeah, who
Different
knows?
date, so.
I don't even know our public holidays, so.
Yeah, well, me neither, actually. We've got one coming up, I think.
Do we?
We've got a WA Day.
Oh, nice. When?
Which means that there'll be the East Fremantle versus South Fremantle Derby on.
Well, I won't be going to that. I'll be spending it indoors.
Yeah, it'll be a Monday and it'll be cold. I had something.
June 5th. Nice.
Yeah, soon.
Nice.
I feel like it still feels like that top 11 spots is so
It's all over
volatile.
the spot. Yeah.
Teams are performing above their skin one week and then playing a shocker the next week. Collingwood, it's just, you watch them win and obviously you feel more convinced by it than you did last year because they're doing it regularly. But there's just still so many games where you feel like they could have lost it, had a few things gone the other way. And that's, Essendon had them.
In saying that, though, they have the second best points against in the team.
For sure.
So,
but yeah, Essendon had them. I felt like St Kilda had them. Felt like Adelaide had them. But that was typical Collingwood games. And then Sydney, who've been really poor for the last 5 or 6 weeks, ran with them for 3 quarters. So
I doubt you're going to learn a lot about them in the next couple of weeks. They've got GWS, Carlton, North, and the Eagles.
I feel like I'll maybe learn more about Carlton in that game than Collingwood, and I'll learn nothing in the other 3. I do wonder what we do with GWS. as a team, because obviously we know that the experiment for trying to get people to come to football didn't really work in Sydney, and they really do seem to be struggling despite the talent that's on their list currently. Even though they lost a fair bit of talent, there's still a lot in there in terms of, especially in the midfield.
It's their first year under a new coach. I feel like...
Yeah, that is true, but I do worry for them if they stay uncompetitive for long enough. What keeps them going? The AFL. Probably,
AFL
but,
money.
Yeah.
AFL money.
Money, yeah. But where does the money come from with Tassie coming in? AFL's going to be bleeding money there. Kangaroos are bleeding money there.
Just tax someone rich like North Melbourne.
Well, they're going to be doing great without their $4 million a year from Tasmania. Hawthorn will be doing great.
They might
without
still
their
get that.
$6 million a year from Tasmania. No, they're putting that into the Tassie team.
All of it.
I'm pretty sure. Well, Tasmania's not going to sponsor Hawthorn while they're...
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they did to get grudge matches of a sort with North and
It
Tassie
will be interesting
and
to
Hawthorn and
see
Tassie.
when those teams go down there for Tassie home games. I'm actually quite excited to watch that.
I think that'll be a thing that they push and work with those teams towards.
Even if that money does leave, I wonder if it's going to get phased out over the next few years.
Maybe.
Because it'll be weird if they just drop the money now, despite the fact that Tassie's not in yet.
Yeah.
And we don't have any details on what the Tassie team's going to be called or look like. It seems like they could have done a lot of that.
I read a proposal the other day. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but it was a borderline extinct or endangered bird in Tasmania called like a something swift, and calling them the Tasmania Swifts I think sounds pretty nice.
I don't mind that actually.
And it's
coached
not
by Tom Swift.
And it's not basic. It feels better than the Giants. The Swifts.
The Giants
I like
is
the Swifts.
very silly. I don't... Why? Why is it the Giants?
I don't know, because it started with a G.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Granted, I do think that the Bombers is still the worst one. Why is your mascot an aeroplane?
Surprised. It's a good thing there was no woke culture during World War II, or that would have been gone.
Because it's a weird one, right? Like, most of them are either people or animals, right?
The Dockers is dumb, but I get it.
Is wolf-based, but it's silly. Well, the Blues is interesting. It's just the colour, but that's fine as well. I don't hate that, but the same as in the waffle, the Royals is still, it's just royal blue, right? But the Bombers and you're an aeroplane. Strange.
What's your argument against though?
It's weird. Why is it an aeroplane?
Should they be the Essendon Mosquitoes? Should they be the Essendon Reds? None of that works.
You would be something else.
Go on. Come back to me with a 5-page proposal next week.
I'll think about it. Yeah, I'll make an article and I'll post it on somewhere for the Essendon Frogs.
Not frogs. Could have had a Queensland team called the Cane Toads, maybe.
Yeah, but that's an invasive species. Actually, that's what they should have called Brisbane when they moved them up there.
True.
Because they were invasive species. So that works. The shark still isn't taken. That's
Yeah, but it doesn't align with red and black, does it?
No, I'm not saying for Essendon. I'm just saying that's one that no club is using, which is a pretty common one in most sports. People have used dolphins before.
I don't want dolphins.
We've got hawks. We've got eagles. They're pretty common.
No more birds.
It
says me who really wants the Swifts.
Just thinking what other sports have common ones. We can't do the Tassie Tigers, which is unfortunate because that would have been really cool.
They're not going to steal the Jack Jumpers.
We're not going to steal the Jack Jumpers. We've got kangaroos. We don't have bilbies, but they're kind of weak and useless.
They feel meek.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You call your team the bilbies, you're asking for trouble. We do have too many birds, don't we? It's a lot of birds. Hawks, swans, eagles, crows, magpies. Is that
Giants.
it? Giants.
I don't know. I think that's it.
Yeah. Castle Warriors. We can get a Castle
What's
Warrior.
a power?
Cool. That's true. That is weird. Port Power? That's because the Dockers was taken. And so was Magpies, which they are in the
That's
sample.
true. That is true. That at least they've got an excuse
imagine
for.
going, Magpies is taken.
Power.
So maybe they're trying to make a
Surprised
play
they
for...
didn't sue Adelaide for the power stance.
Oh, that would have been funny.
Stupid joke.
Well, and as you brought up, they are going to sue the brewery for...
Yeah,
I didn't even see the Jason Horn Francis beer.
It's called like ice bath beers or ice bath tears. I can't remember.
Okay.
Something like that. There's a picture of Jason Horn Francis in a ice bath.
Right. So it's probably more of an attack on Kane Corns than Jason Orfred. Like,
Yeah, I think
if
so.
you bring up the ice bath thing, the only person who remembers that, or the only reason everyone remembers that is
Yeah.
because Kane Corns keeps bringing it up. No, I don't.
I really like him being called out each and every week. But he's not learning.
I just wish he... Yeah, but he likes it because he gets attention.
I know.
Kind of flicks. It's the same as every time you read on Twitter, most pages will use AFL great or former club legend or whatever as their thing. But when it's Tom Morris, they will say Tom Morris because they know that it will get a whole bunch of people commenting Tom Morris shouldn't be in journalism anymore, and that gets the mass engagement. So, unfortunately, the way the world states that Kane Corns being an absolute tosspot will garner SEN more listens and Channel 9 more views.
Get him on the podcast.
He's employed
to
by
debate
9
you.
SEN and the AFL. Like, it's insane.
He says the same thing 5 times a week.
Yeah, on different stations. He wakes up in the morning and he goes, what inflammatory things can I say today and how many different places can I say them? He writes articles for The Age as well, just to really, hammer it home.
His thing this week is Carlton are a bottom 6 side.
Okay.
He logs into the AFL, does his show.
Being a Port fan, he would know about bottom 6 sides, so that's fair.
And then he repeats it on the Sunday Footy show at SEN.
It's insane.
If he's looking for ways to get people to interact with him, that's a pretty good one.
It is. Well, it's working. He targets Collingwood, he targets Carlton, he targets big clubs, he targets clubs with members. He needs to come for Richmond next. But
He hasn't really called off Essendon recently.
Maybe he's scared of going for Richmond. Maybe
they'll put him in the microwave.
Their fans are something else online.
Right in front of me.
Let's throw up. Footy fan reactions immediately after games are some of my favourite things. I feel like the worst I get is just deflated.
I usually just go have a nap.
But even if I'm leaving a game and I've seen my team lose, the worst I'll be is oh yeah, that sucked.
Shout outs to being at Optus the other day. West Coast got pumped by 108 points. Everyone was just there hanging out. No one was having a sook on the train.
I remember during the 2020 season when Geelong did their 3-week bubble over here and with Collingwood. I remember going to the Collingwood game and Geelong got pretty roundly beaten. And I was leaving that game and I was just like, that was brutal. That was just rough. Whereas at least the game against West Coast and Freo were good. Well, Freo wasn't a good game. It was in horrible wet weather, but Geelong won by a million. But after that Collingwood game, I was like, they were just good, too good. And you just kind of flat. The people who go and say outrageous stuff and get violent or tantrum sad, I just don't get it. It's a reflection on them. Obviously, we do this weekly. We love football.
One of us does.
Yeah. But I care about football, but not to a blind, one-eyed extent where I just lose my mind if my club can't win. It's so strange.
You take the good with the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I'm saying this as a Geelong fan, and Geelong have some fans who are absolutely insane. They'd lose a game and suddenly it's season over. People did it last year when they were 6-6.
The sack Chris Scott thread on Big Footy is one of my favourites.
And I wonder how long it will take for it to start up again. I feel like it was getting close.
They were posting it at the start of the year.
They're a crazy bunch. Football fans are nuts. And it's, I guess, probably a good thing that club decisions are not a democracy vote because some terrible stuff would probably happen.
Sumich would be coaching the Eagles.
Oh, goodness.
Popular
columnist.
He's a
popular columnist. Didn't he say something crazy this week? Who did he give a 1?
He gave Jack Darling a 1.
I wanted to give him a 0.
He kicked
a goal.
He said that they'd be better playing a man down.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
That's really... I mean... If they were going to drop him, they might have to. I think they've got some players coming back this week, West Coast, to their credit.
I think Bazzo and another one, and I think Chesser. I think that's it.
Which Schofield took as his sign to resign again.
From the waffle?
Yeah. He handed in his resignation for a second time. He, I don't know if you saw the highlight on the weekend. He did a full Wayne Harms on the boundary, kept it in, picked it up, stepped around a bloke and then fell over forward. It was like you could see the legs spinning, trying to balance.
He knew his mind was doing it.
I feel like that was the moment where he went, maybe that's it. Maybe
2 weeks
maybe
is enough.
That's it. Might have been 3. But anyway, good on him. 2 or 3 weeks back at the waffle level is more than I think most people could run out, especially well and truly out of football fitness.
Yeah.
So that's just club culture to the max. I have to love it. I saw he actually made some really good comments about saying that like West Coast fans just have to understand that it's been a long time since they've had multiple good draft hands. They gave it all away for Tim Kelly. And now they've been picking maybe one or no good players each year. Not good, but you know what I mean? They haven't had 2 top 20 picks or 2 top 25 picks for a long time, and now they're going to start getting them.
Yeah, and I
Jinby
think
looked great.
A good way to look at it is Collingwood, for example, and we know they didn't do a full rebuild, but they traded away picks for beams that were totally lost to time.
Yep.
They lost picks all over the place. I think there was 4 or 5 seasons where they didn't have a top, like a round 1 draft pick. And look at them now.
Yeah, you just got to even.
It just takes a few years of hitting the draft and getting youngsters playing in your side.
While good when you can get access to it, isn't as important as just having multiple in that top 20 or 30, and just pulling them in every year because it's just having a round of talent and depth.
Yeah,
which West Coast will have to build up again, and they just haven't had to do it for a long time.
Will they all make it? Absolutely not.
No, but even when they had that rebuild that got them to that last flag, they didn't spend as long down there. It was only 3 years, I think, they spent outside of the 8. But
it can also be just about picking your specifically talented mid-range picks. Like Liam Ryan, for example, is a great example of someone you pluck out of the WAFL. Why did I say WAFL? That was weird. Out of the waffle.
The WAFL.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened there. You pick someone like that out of the waffle and they make an instant impact to your best 22 side. And that can make the difference. And it's going to be rough because they're probably going to see a cull of maybe 10 to 12 plus players at the end of this year, and they have to refill all of that.
But they need to do it now. I think it's important they realise that now before Tasmania starts.
The more players you can pull across, like your Jaden Hunts, who, whilst they haven't made an impact on the wins, has been good for them this year.
Witherden started to look like he was playing good football again before he got brutally injured.
So that's kind of where I see West Coast at. I don't see it doom and gloom. I just think that they need to
refresh.
They need to fully rebuild.
And I think West Coast fans need to...
My audio died.
Oh, died.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's another one. We'll call that for the week. And we will be back with you again next week. As always, you can find us at the Back Pocket AU on all socials.
No comment from me.
No comment from Alistair. You can't make any jokes this week. At Nash. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Hello and welcome back to
That's a millennial pause later.
Oh, God.